welcome to the Ask Dr. Joanne Frederick Show. Today, I'm going to be interviewing and getting to know a little more about Dr. Joanne Frederick, where she comes from, what does she like, what is her favorite food, what is her favorite music, some things that you might not have already known about her, and about her book, Copeology, what inspired her to write such a fantastic book that I was able to read in 2 days, actually. Couldn't put it down. But I want to talk also a little bit about how I met Dr. Joanne. Would you believe she was one of my instructors over 10 years ago? We met at Argosy University, where I was studying to be a therapist, a psychologist, counseling psychologist. She taught me well. And we went on to become my chair for my dissertation on suicide prevention. So I've known her a long time, but there's probably some things I don't know about her. And that's what we're going to be doing today, is asking her a little things that we all might not know about Doctor. So any guests, I welcome you all aboard today. Thank you for joining us for Ask Dr. Joanne Frederick today. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show until we wait Dr. Joanne. Well, hello, Dr. Joanne Frederick. How are you today?
I'm well. How are you, Dr. Wellington?
I am honored to be here today, to be able to interview one individual that I hold with high esteem, that has taught me a whole lot over these last 10 years. So it's an honor to be asked to interview you for your show, Ask Dr. Joanne.
Wow, thank you. 10 years?
10
That's
years.
how long we've known each other. Wow.
10 plus years. Exactly.
Seems like 2 years ago, right?
Isn't it? And I'm still continuing to learn and still continuing to learn about you. And I'm going to learn more today during this course of this interview. Yeah. So how are you doing for this new year? Have you written down any New Year's resolutions that you're going to be?
Yes. You know, it continues from the last year and the year before and the year before that, which is all related to self-care, family, friends, the same all everybody have. But I like, since it's a new year, just to reset. And then my birthday's in June, and that's another reset. So about twice a year, kind of just taking inventory.
Well, yeah, June is my birthday too. So yeah, I can't wait to June, right? June the 1st for me. What day is your birthday?
28th.
28th. You're on the end of it. Okay. You didn't make the Gemini cut, but you're okay.
Nope. I made the Cancer cut.
Well, that's okay. Well, one of the things we're going to be talking about is your book that was fantastic. I was able to read, and that's one of my New Year's resolutions, is actually to read more and to drink more water. And so reading your book, Copeology, helped me start off my New Year's resolution. I was able to read that book in 2 days, Dr. James.
Wow, that is amazing. I'm impressed.
It was fantastic. And just to read some of the people's interviewers that you brought on and what their testimony was and how they cope and what they do and what mechanisms they use was awesome. And we all need to read it and be able to use some of those coping mechanisms. I'm interested in how you became to familiarize yourself with some of the individuals in the book.
Yeah, so it's interesting. So the book, right? I have it with me. Look, it says Dr. Joanne Frederick and friends. So each of these people really are in the friend category. Like they've all been people who I've known for years in different capacities. There's a couple of people who were a former student. There's one or two people that I practically grew up with, met in college. Wow. There are some that are colleagues, there's some that we work together in JFL and Associates Counseling Services, but everyone have a relationship with me in some way.
And it was so many touching, compelling moments with their testimony. How were you able to cope when you were interviewing them? Were you in face-to-face interviewing? Were you over the internet? How was that? Because when I was reading the book, I was touched in so many ways. How did you deal with that?
Yeah, well, everyone's story is so touching and compelling that I gave them questions to answer, sit with, and reflect. So it's almost like journaling. And as a matter of fact, I think one of the authors even said, just writing this was therapeutic for me with all the things that she was going through. And so that's how they answered. They had 3 questions: sit, think, reflect, write. Awesome. So looking like journaling, but also that's a form of self-care. That's a form of therapy when we write our story. The other thing that was important for me with all the other authors were when you tell your story, you help someone else. But
Exactly.
many times we hold on to our story, which becomes a secret and
Exactly.
is harming us and it's not helping someone else. So to
That's great.
release that was
Okay.
what I was looking for. And so I didn't know what they were going to write until I put it all together and I read everyone's story. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing,
Wow.
fascinating. I gave everyone kudos for being able to publicly share their story, including mine, right? My
Exactly.
story as well. I'm like, oh my
Exactly.
gosh, am I ready to talk about this? And I did.
Exactly. And I'm not going to give it away and tell anyone what some of their stories were. You have to get the book. And can you hold the book up again for us, Doctor?
Yeah.
Yes, because I don't want to take anything away because they are all so compelling. And getting off of the book, but you've done so many things in your life in your short period you've been here and its existence. What are some of your goals in the next 3 years? I mean, what have you not done?
Wow, that's a great question. Well, one goal for 2022, I would like to rebrand myself. So
Hmm.
what that means is, well, first of all, living in a pandemic, it has allowed me to serve people in a broader spectrum. So
Mm-hmm.
pre-pandemic, in order to work with me, or I get a chance to work with you, as you know, I'm teaching, so my students get to connect with me, and then as a professional therapist, people get to connect with me in the office. But the pandemic has allowed us to connect more. Technology wise, and
Mm-hmm.
because of that, I've been able to serve other organizations and talk about mental health and self care and surviving COVID 19. And so it allowed me to do that. But one of the goals within the next 3 years is I would like to do that on a bigger scale as well, like reaching people in a variety of ways. Thus, a book would be helpful. Another goal is to do a part two. There is going to be a Copeology part two. People are
Okay.
asking already, and we just released it last week, 2 weeks
Oh,
ago.
wow.
Matter of fact, you're going to be on that one too. Just
Awesome.
give me a heads
Awesome.
up. Yeah.
That's great. Great.
So that's a second goal. Another goal is, so, I'm very family oriented and friends, I'm about the community. And part of these goals is set an example for my children and then
Mm-hmm.
also helping my family members cope and survive with life. When they read
Exactly.
things or they see things, they're like, oh my gosh, that helped me.
Exactly.
And those are my goals to kind of continue that.
That is great. I mean, we know now, Dr. J, that mental health is at the forefront of everything we do in our society. It's in the media, it's in the news. We have entertainers talking about it. We have athletes talking about it. Unfortunately, it hits us at home, right in the community. Just yesterday, here in Prince George's County, a young man, 15 years old, killed his mother and his 8-year-old brother, wounded his father. So it's going to reverberate throughout that family. He had a 19-year-old brother that's still surviving, a 2-year-old sister. They're going to have to deal with the aftermath of that right here in Clinton for the rest of their lives. What do you believe that was going to be a focal point for that family to cope, to have some copeology, to be able to deal with the unfortunate tragedy that happened yesterday?
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up because, I heard about it, didn't read too much about that yet. But the goal is to prevent these types of things from happening in the first place. So what that means is we have to teach the younger generation and continue practicing good coping skills. So when we get disappointed, I don't know what was the disappointment with this young man, what happened, and even
Mm-hmm.
identifying mental health conditions. We all suffer from anxiety and or depression at some
Yes,
point. Knowing those things are normal and the education pre any of these events happening, right? So I
exactly.
think if some of those things was in contact, we might have been able to prevent or minimize this anger or whatever happened with the young man. But
And
now that it happened, that's another thing with trauma. We can't
exactly.
erase it.
We
When
can't.
trauma happens, it happens, and that's it. So in this case, this family, this community, us, we're traumatized now, but
Yeah.
there's still help, right? So the biggest help, I would say, there's always three. There's talk therapy, medication, and a combination of both. So these individuals, the families, the community are going to need all. But what I also say is that everybody can't afford therapy. And it could
Right.
be financially, it could be time, or even access to therapy.
Exactly.
Thus, I put therapeutic skills in a book that we can get anytime, Open it when you want. There are tips in here on how to deal with grief and loss, how to deal with trauma. So this type of thing that that's happening here, and that was the goal. And I really think that that's sort of unfortunate event.
Mm-hmm.
I feel sad for the young boy and also his friends, family members. It's
Yes.
traumatic for the
It's gonna
community.
it's gonna be traumatic, and we
Yes.
have to use every experience in our lives to help us compel us to the next one. So one of the things I grapple with within the African American community and trying to teach them to help them reach them, what do you believe is one of the or two of the significant things that we're going to have to continue to preach about to break the stigma for mental health in the African American community, Dr. J?
Yeah. Well, one of them, as I say before, the secret. We have to stop holding on to those secrets. So, the African American community, whether they're African American, African Caribbean, Africans from the motherland, like I'm talking black people, all shades, right? Black and brown.
Like we said, people of color, of course.
People of color, we are accustomed to keeping secrets. So no matter what it is happened or what's going on in the family, we don't talk about it and just brush it on the table. But it doesn't work. So when we begin to start releasing that secret, help
Mm-hmm.
is available, right? So that's one thing. And
Mm-hmm.
then the ability to talk, right? We have to speak to someone that we trust. It could be a
Exactly.
friend, a family, a stranger. We
Mm-hmm.
have to talk. And when we start talking, we start healing by getting
Exactly.
ideas, thoughts. We hear ourselves. And those are the two biggest things to begin with
Mm-hmm.
in the community.
That's great. Thank you for that answer.
Hmm.
People ask me all the time, as a therapist, as a professor, as in the community, they say, Dr. Wellington, what are some of the things that you do to release yourself after talking to all of us people? How do you cope? What are your coping skills? So I'm going to turn that over to you, Dr. J. What are your coping skills? What are your self care?
Yeah, thanks for that because it's a good reminder. So I'm one who believes in practicing what you preach. So if I'm talking about talk therapy and spirituality, health, or self care, I should be practicing that as well. But I also know that many times I also need a partner, a reminder like, hey, did you work out today? Did you check your blood pressure? Did you get good rest? Have you had breakfast today? So
Mm-hmm.
I also need that too. So for me, I try to do the same thing that I'm teaching people, right? So there is a dimension, 7 dimensions of self-care. I
Okay.
try to check in with that to see where I am. So one of
Great.
those is even financial self-care. Are you paying your bills?
Mm.
Are you saving money? Another
Wow.
one is let's say creative self-care, cognitive.
Mm-hmm.
Are you
Okay.
reading books? You talked about reading books. Are you doing puzzles? Are you creating music, art? Like, what are you doing? And so those are the things I actually pull out this chart and I look at it. As a matter of fact, I have it up on a wall
Okay.
to make sure that I am doing some of these things. And when I'm not, actually, I'll reach out for help. I'll tell
Okay.
my friends and family, oh, I need accountability to like work out. Or I
Mm-hmm.
see myself like eating a lot of sweets. I love sweets. Oh
Mm,
my
you and me both. You and me both.
goodness. But even me, I have to remind myself and I need accountability partners to keep me on track.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm always mindful and cognizant about it.
Right, because what we try to tell people, like you said, we are human beings as well. And like you said, depression or anxiety can cover it to all. It doesn't care the color of your skin,
Yes.
your level of education. It doesn't matter. It can hit
No.
us all. So we
Yep.
have to continue to again to talk about it. And that's directly right, Dr. J.
Yeah. And I want to add something you just said. Anxiety, depression doesn't care about the color of your skin, your education level, like how many children you have, none of that. And what that means is that we're all susceptible to struggling and
Mm-hmm.
especially living through a pandemic where there's all these changes. One day you're in, then you're out, then you're online, then you're not. Like, how do we cope? We have to
Mm-hmm.
continue cope. And when I say we, I'm talking about all of us
Mm-hmm.
collectively, including me, and like you said, including yourself.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter. Yeah.
What do you think, or how can we put the responsibility back on other people when I say legislatively? What can they do on a larger level to help enforce mental health within our community?
Yeah, well, I'm going to say folks on the legislative level also may not be aware as well. Because just because they're on legislative level does not mean they know about mental health and how insurance
You're going
reimbursement
somewhere.
goes.
You hitting something. You hitting
Oh,
something.
okay, I'm going somewhere right
Yeah,
there.
you're going
Okay.
somewhere. You're going
So
somewhere.
what that means, that means that it relies on us to educate them. And the us I'm referring to, yes, the professionals who know it, but also the people, the parents, the kids who've experienced some things and they've experienced the barriers to getting assistance. They also have to educate political
Um,
folks so that they can represent at the table and be an advocate for services.
that is awesome, and it's so apropos of what you're saying. Just today, Dr. Jefferson, mind you, I have to put this plug out there. That
Doctor Who? Who was that again?
Dr. Frederick.
Yeah. Look, that's to tell you how long you've known me, right?
Right, I just can't get that Dr. Justin on my head. But yes, I'm going to put a plug out there, and I want all the Prince George's County people to know it because, as you just mentioned about legislation, we had to educate them. Today, I turned in a white paper on mental health to the upcoming governor's race. And
Okay.
we need to be mindful. This young black man that's powerful, he's a Rhodes Scholar. His name is Wes Moore, and he's going to be running for governor of the state of Maryland. I
Yes.
sent to him what is needed for mental health in the state of Maryland. So we have to hold those individuals accountable as well. We have to take care of our family members, but we also have to let the legislative branch know in our community, this is what we need. We need more funding for mental health. We need to put it in the school system. So what do you feel about that, Dr. President?
I agree. I feel like we always needed to do that, but it was like, whatever, no big deal. But the pandemic definitely made folks know that it is a big deal, right? The longer we're in this and the longer we're back and forth again, right? With the changes, the
Mm-hmm.
more and more we're seeing um more serious mental health conditions.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Do you
Yes.
have any advice or how 2 point question? Any advice and how long do you think this pandemic will exist in our society? What are some of the advice on the copeology that we need to deal with just specifically dealing with the pandemic?
Yeah, it's interesting you asked that question. So I just did an interview yesterday with the Griot, and they asked that same question as well. Like
Wow.
my prediction, like what do I think? And I kind of feel like I get that question because the first 2 weeks that it was here and school was closed, and folks are like, "Yeah, it's gonna be normal." I sat and I thought, and I said, you know what? No, because this is how I looked at it. It takes 9 months to have a child. Do I
Okay.
really think it's going to take 2 weeks or a month and we're going to be finished fighting a virus? I give it at least a year. And now
Okay.
we're in 2, 3 years. So my prediction, again, and this prediction is only coming from a
Sure.
mental health therapist who have a biology background. I
That's great.
studied viruses, particularly HIV and AIDS. This
Awesome.
looks familiar to me.
Okay.
And so what that means, I feel like there's always going to be coronavirus, but
Okay.
there's going to be a time that we're going to look back and be like, oh, remember when coronavirus was killing people, like people dropping like flies?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But because while we're still being impacted by coronavirus, there is technology
Mm-hmm.
and science that is fighting it, right?
Right.
So what that means, the prediction, we have to get vaccinated and boosted. Yes, you will still get it. I'm not saying you won't,
Mm-hmm.
but you won't be in the hospital on a ventilator if we do the preventative things first.
Okay.
And most importantly, wear that mask everywhere, period.
Okay.
That includes in your household. If someone has been exposed, wear it. It's okay, right? Because I've seen it prevent people from catching um, coronavirus.
Okay.
So the prediction in a nutshell is that it's going to be here. It's not going anywhere. But
Mm-hmm.
right now, there's a cycle. And the cycle to me looks like when it's cold, the winter months, we have to hibernate more indoors. And that
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean socialize, right?
Right.
We still got to practice social distancing.
Right.
It means stay indoors as much as possible as you can, because
Mm-hmm.
some people do work outdoors and amongst other people, but some work at home. But also hold tight. This season is going to end, right? So right now we're in January. We got February, March, April. April, we're back out, in terms of outdoor functions, right? Hanging out with your friends, outdoor dinners, meals. You just gotta hunker down for a little bit. That's my prediction. But my prediction is the longer we're in this, the more mental health and physical health and death that we're going to experience.
That is so true. What do you think that's been maybe one of your clients that you have to persuade that was just on the fence and they just would not come over and say, I'm going to take it? Can you tell us an experience that you turned someone's thought process around?
Okay, I'm going to give you the worst case scenario
That's what
that
we're
I
looking
just
for.
experienced about 2 weeks ago, and then I'll answer that question. So the worst case scenario, so an uncle of mine, and this is me talking this through so I could continue healing with this because it was traumatic for a lot of us in the family. Uncle of mine, we know not into vaccination, not getting it. Well, my mom called him on Christmas Day to wish him Merry Christmas. He can't breathe. He's like, I'm sick. I don't know what's wrong. And everyone, she calls all the siblings. We need to talk to him. Something's going on. Everyone begged him, you have to go to the doctor. You have to go. It sounds like you have coronavirus. You got to go. I'm not going nowhere. I'm fine, whatever. Well, an uncle got a call. He dropped dead in front of his house on December 28th.
No.
For me, it was like, I don't understand. Like, what is the problem? Like, I had to deal with a lot, and the siblings, definitely the rest of the family. So I give that example because there are some people, no matter what, you're not going to convince them to get vaccinated, nor will we convince them to get treatment. Right?
Okay.
So what does that mean for us?
Okay.
One, I think we have to continue educating because one day there's always hope. They may listen or somebody else may listen and get the facts and change that mentality. That's one.
Okay.
But then also, as a therapist, part of my self-care with working with other people is I cannot work harder than you. So I can't keep pushing and fighting. You got to do this. You have to do this. At some point, I have to realize, hold on, this is not good for my mental health.
Correct.
So I have to leave that alone, let the cards fall wherever it falls. I have no idea. And then deal with that when something happens. Great. And so that's how I take care of my self-care, where I can't work harder than my clientele, my friends, family members. I can't work harder, but I'm going to do my best, keep hope alive, and stay positive.
Wow, that's great. Yeah, that's one of the best advice. That's some of the similar advice I give as well. Can you tell us a little bit about the inner family of Dr. Frederick? Can you tell us about the kids? How are the kids doing?
Oh, the kids are doing good. All three of them. Everybody's doing great. So I guess maybe I'm wondering if to go in age order or what. All right. So the oldest one, he's a realtor and he now is doing some more things in real estate. So as we speak, he's taking classes.
Oh my goodness.
So I'm like, yes. So he got his license, all of that.
Great.
That's the oldest. The middle one, which is a girl, during the pandemic, I homeschooled her. So she's now 16 years old in college. She finished her first semester successfully. And I'm just proud of her. She do her thing. Everyone is like, she's like you. She's a little you. And I'm like, I don't know. I was a little bit wilder at that age. But I don't know. But she's doing her thing. And the little one, he just had a birthday yesterday. Well, 2 days ago. 16, young man. I'm really happy how these kids are surviving a pandemic.
Awesome.
The biggest thing they always say, this is what they say, is that you're the best mother. Like, I'm so glad you're a mental health therapist because I identify like, okay, you know what? They need a little bit more energy because they can't see their friends. Things have changed. So what can I do? Okay, come on, let's learn tennis. And we go outside to the park right in the neighborhood, play tennis. We do a lot of cooking together, bonding. But for me as a parent, is also to keep their mental health and their mentality intact as they survive.
Because that's great.
Coloring, drawing, making music, they're dancing. And that's what we have to continue doing for people in our household, the children. Like we got to keep each other hopeful during this time.
Because that's what they're saying, that it's hitting the adolescents and the young just as hard. You imagine the adults and what we're dealing with and what we're going through. imagine the adolescents, what they have to deal with. And
Yeah,
again,
and with that, that means that we have to teach them how to cope.
wow.
That's all I'm doing,
Mhm.
teaching them how to cope.
And that's what it's
Because
all
life,
about, the copeology of it all. And that's the
yes,
thing, giving our clients coping mechanism to deal with on every day in the family life. But now it's with the pandemic, it's exacerbate so much other things that we're dealing with in our lives. So your book is timely, is right there on time. We're definitely appreciate it. I again tell everyone to go out and read it. We have a couple minutes left. So at this time, I want you to tell us something that you believe that no one knows about you, Dr. Frederick. What you want to share with us that no one else, that you think a lot of people don't know about Dr. Joanne Frederick?
you ready for this? Y'all
We're
ready
ready.
for this? Oh
Yeah.
my! If I tell you, I'm gonna have to. Okay, so something people don't know about me is that I'm black.
Oh, I did not know that.
Right, that's what I'm saying. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm blessed. I'm happy. I'm grateful. Okay. What don't people, something people don't know about me? Okay. So maybe some people don't know what my favorite food is. And my favorite food is roti.
Roti. Oh, wow.
Roti. Yes, from Trinidad
Wow.
and Tobago.
Oh,
Yep.
wow. Awesome. And that's another thing I said I was going to do this year. And I'm not kidding. I said, I've been all around the world. I've traveled extensively in the military in my private life, but I have never been to Trinidad and Tobago. And I said, I'm going to do that.
You gotta come.
It's on my
Yes.
list this year. I really did. Well, Dr. Frederick, it's been really, really exciting to have this session with you. I mean, again, I thought I knew you, but apparently I didn't. But I've learned some new things today, and it's been an honor to have this session with you. Any last
Thank
words you'd like
you.
to give our viewing audience today?
Yeah, I would. I want number one, I would like to say I appreciate you. I appreciate you being willing to interview me on my show. How ironic. That is great. I want to thank, the producers, backstage, Princess, Deanna, and all friends, family. I mean, I really love and enjoy when people say, "Hey, I learned this about you," or "You taught me this," or "I
Mm-hmm.
love the positivity." And so that's my last thing. Again,
Okay.
we're gonna survive, but how we gonna do it? We gotta keep reading, we gotta keep dancing, singing, creating art, music,
Great.
praying.
Awesome.
We're gonna get
Awesome.
through that. My
Awesome.
last comment, Copeology, located on Amazon.com. And that's all I have to say.
Read
For
it. It's a good book. Everybody enjoy the rest of your evening. It's been a pleasure, been an honor, Dr. Frederick. Look to talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Take
Appreciate
care.
you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.